Europe's engine under pressure. For decades, Germany was often called the engine of Europe. Its factories made the cars, machines, and chemicals sold around the world. Its companies became symbols of engineering, precision, and industrial strength. And because Germany was Europe's largest economy, its success did not stay inside Germany. It supported suppliers, workers, and businesses across the continent. But today, that engine is under pressure. Germany has not suddenly become a poor country. It is still a major industrial power. It still has globally successful companies, highly skilled workers, and a huge export sector. But the economic model that made Germany successful for decades has become much harder to sustain. Energy is more expensive. China is no longer only a customer, but also a competitor. Global trade is less predictable. Infrastructure is aging. Investment is too slow. And Germany's population is getting older. So this is not simply a story about one weak year or one bad government. It is a story about a country built for one version of the global economy now trying to adapt to another. And because Germany is so deeply connected to the rest of Europe, this is not only Germany's problem. It is a European problem. Why Germany became Europe's economic engine? To understand Germany's current weakness, we first need to understand why it became so strong. Germany's success was never based on one single product or one single company. It was based on an entire industrial ecosystem. Germany became especially good at producing complex, high-value goods: cars, machine tools, industrial equipment, chemicals, electrical systems, medical technology, and precision components. These are not products people buy every week. They are the things other companies need to build factories, produce energy, manufacture goods, or run transport systems. Germany did not just sell finished cars. It sold the machines that made cars. It did not just sell chemicals. It sold the equipment, engineering knowledge, and specialized parts that supported whole industries. A large part of this strength came from the German Mittelstand. Thousands of medium-sized companies that often dominate highly specialized global markets. Some make valves, some make industrial sensors, some make components that most people have never heard of. But they are often world leaders in their narrow field. Germany also benefited from a strong vocational education system, close links between industry and research, and a culture of long-term engineering investment. Then there was Europe. The European single market gave German companies access to a vast nearby market without the same barriers, currencies, and political risks that exist in global trade. German factories imported parts from neighboring countries and exported finished goods across the continent. A car built in Germany might contain components from the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, Austria, or Italy. So Germany did not become Europe's economic engine alone. It became the central hub of a much larger European industrial network, the model that made Germany rich. For many years, Germany's economic model depended on a very favorable combination of conditions. First, there was globalization. As global trade expanded, more countries needed machines, vehicles, industrial equipment, and engineering expertise. Germany was well positioned to sell exactly those things. Second, there was China. For years, China was one of the most important growth markets for German companies. As China built new cities, factories, roads, and industrial capacity, German machinery, chemicals, and cars were in high demand. Third, there was relatively affordable energy. Germany's industrial model depends heavily on energy. Chemicals, steel, glass, paper, metalworking, and manufacturing all require large amounts of electricity and gas. For years, relatively low-cost Russian pipeline gas helped support this system. And fourth, there was European integration. Germany could manufacture at home, buy components from across the European Union, and sell finished goods into the single market. For a long time, this model worked remarkably well. Germany exported more, employment remained strong. Its government could rely on tax revenues from a successful industrial sector. and its neighbors benefited from German demand. But every successful model depends on certain conditions. And those conditions changed. Energy, a structural shock, not just a temporary crisis. The energy crisis after Russia's invasion of Ukraine was not simply an uncomfortable period of high bills. For Germany, it was a structural shock. Germany had built parts of its industrial economy around the assumption that energy would remain affordable and reliable. That assumption no longer holds in the same way. Energy prices have fallen sharply from the extreme levels seen in 2022. But for many energy-intensive industries, Germany is still a more expensive place to produce than some competing locations. That matters especially in sectors where profit margins are already under pressure. A chemical company can move some production elsewhere. A steel producer can reduce investment. A manufacturer can decide that its next factory should be built in another country. This does not mean German industry is disappearing overnight, but it means that every investment decision has become more difficult. Germany is also trying to rebuild its energy system at the same time. It must expand renewable energy, modernize electricity grids, secure alternative gas supplies, and keep electricity affordable for households and industry. All of that is possible, but it takes time, investment, and political consistency. And businesses make decisions today, not only after future reforms are complete. China, from customer to competitor. China is one of the clearest examples of how Germany's old economic model has changed. For years, China was a major source of growth for German exporters. German car makers sold large numbers of premium vehicles in China. German machinery companies supplied Chinese factories. German chemical firms benefited from China's industrial expansion. But China is no longer only a market for German products. It is increasingly a competitor. Chinese companies now produce electric vehicles, batteries, machinery, solar technology, electronics, and industrial equipment at enormous scale. In some sectors, they are cheaper. In others, they are becoming more technologically advanced. And in electric vehicles, China has moved especially quickly. This creates a difficult situation for Germany. German car makers are still major global companies. They have strong brands, engineering expertise, and loyal customers. But the car industry is changing. Electric vehicles require fewer mechanical parts than traditional combustion engine cars. Batteries, software, electronics, and supply chains have become more important. That challenges the strengths Germany developed during the age of the petrol and diesel engine. The problem is not that Germany forgot how to build cars. The problem is that the global car industry is no longer organized around the same technologies, costs, and markets. And this change affects far more than a few famous car brands. It affects suppliers, metal workers, logistics firms, machine builders, research centers, and entire regions. A more difficult world for export economies. Germany is especially exposed because it depends heavily on exports. That used to be a major advantage. But an export-heavy economy is vulnerable when global demand slows, supply chains become less reliable, or trade becomes more political. The world economy is now more fragmented than it was 10 or 15 years ago. Governments are using tariffs, subsidies, export controls, and industrial policy more aggressively. Companies are trying to reduce risks in their supply chains. Production is moving closer to major markets, and trade is no longer treated as purely economic. It is increasingly linked to security, technology, and geopolitics. Germany's old model was built in a world where markets were opening, supply chains were becoming more global, and China was growing rapidly. The new world is more uncertain. That does not mean global trade is ending. But it does mean that Germany can no longer assume that its exports will grow simply because the global economy grows. Its companies must compete harder, adapt faster, and invest more in new technologies. The problems at home. The external pressures are important, but Germany also has serious domestic problems, and many of them existed long before the energy crisis. Germany has underinvested in parts of its infrastructure for years. Its railways are unreliable. Bridges, roads, and public buildings need repair. Digital infrastructure is uneven. Public administration is often slow and paper-based. For a modern industrial economy, this matters more than it may seem. A company deciding where to invest does not only look at wages or taxes. It also asks, can I get permission quickly? Can I connect to the electricity grid? Can I find skilled workers? Can goods move reliably by rail, road, and port? Can public authorities make decisions fast enough? Too often, the answer in Germany is uncertain. Then there is demography. Germany's population is aging. Large numbers of experienced workers are approaching retirement. Companies already struggle to find engineers, technicians, electricians, construction workers, nurses, and IT specialists. This is not a short-term problem. It is a long-term limit on growth. And finally, there is productivity. Germany remains productive by international standards. But productivity growth has slowed. That means the country is not improving its ability to produce more value with the same amount of labor, capital, and energy as quickly as it once did. This is one reason why Germany's problem cannot be solved by one policy alone. Cheaper energy would help. More public investment would help. Less bureaucracy would help. More skilled workers would help. But lasting recovery requires progress on several fronts at the same time. Why Germany's slowdown matters beyond Germany. So why should anyone outside Germany care? Because Germany is not simply one national economy among many. It is Europe's largest economy and one of the central industrial hubs of the European Union. More than half of German goods exports go to other EU countries. That means Germany's economy is deeply connected to its neighbors. When German companies invest less, suppliers in other countries may receive fewer orders. When German car production slows, factories in Central Europe can feel the effect. When German consumers spend less, businesses in neighboring countries may sell less. And when Germany invests more in railways, energy networks, housing, defense, or technology, those investments can also create demand across Europe. This is especially important for countries closely tied to German manufacturing. The Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Poland, and Austria are all deeply connected to German supply chains in different ways. A weaker German industrial sector does not automatically create a crisis across Europe. Other European countries have different strengths. Spain, for example, has recently grown faster than Germany. Southern European economies are not simply waiting for Berlin to recover. But Germany is still large enough that its weakness changes the European picture. A stronger Germany can support European growth. A weaker Germany can reduce it. And a Germany that modernizes successfully could help Europe become more competitive in a world shaped by American technology, Chinese industrial scale, and geopolitical uncertainty. What people often get wrong. There are several common misunderstandings about Germany's economy. The first is that Germany is collapsing. It is not. Germany remains one of the world's largest economies. It still has advanced manufacturing, major exporters, highly skilled workers, and enormous industrial knowledge. The problem is not the disappearance of German capability. The problem is that Germany's old strengths are no longer enough on their own. The second misunderstanding is that energy is the only problem. Energy is crucial, but it is only one part of the story. Germany also faces weaker investment, slow bureaucracy, labor shortages, infrastructure problems, lower productivity growth, and tougher competition from China. The third misunderstanding is that more government money alone will fix everything. Germany does need more investment. But money only matters if projects can be planned, approved, and built. A new railway line, electricity grid, or factory does not help the economy if it remains stuck in paperwork for years. And the fourth misunderstanding is that Germany simply needs to return to its old model. That is unlikely. The world of cheap Russian gas, rapidly expanding Chinese demand, and relatively frictionless global trade is not coming back in the same form. Germany's future depends on whether it can build a new model around its existing strengths. That means cleaner and more reliable energy, modern infrastructure, faster decision-making, more digital capacity, better conditions for innovation, and a stronger ability to compete in technologies that will define the next industrial era. Final summary. Germany's economic weakness is not a sudden collapse. It is the result of a deeper transition. For decades, Germany succeeded because it combined industrial strength, global exports, European integration, relatively affordable energy, and strong demand from countries like China. But those conditions have changed. Energy is more expensive. China is now a competitor as well as a customer. Global trade is more uncertain. And Germany's domestic weaknesses are becoming harder to ignore. The question is not whether Germany still matters. It clearly does. The question is whether Germany can adapt quickly enough to remain one of Europe's economic foundations. Because when Germany changes, Europe changes with it. And Europe's future may depend on whether its largest industrial economy can turn an old success story into a new one.